What's up, guys? Thank you for checking back into another episode of the AA Nutrition Coach podcast. And today I'm going to be talking about how I manage my time effectively and create more time for myself as a student going to university with an online business and multiple jobs. Here we go.
The AA Nutrition Coach podcast.
Just to say at the start of this episode, I really do apologise for my voice and about it sounding slightly odd. It's just because I've been managing a cold for the last couple of weeks, and for some reason I go through phases where I have really good days and I feel amazing, but then I have times where I feel much worse, and it sounds like I've been suffering from this cold for a really long time, and I'm full of gunk or whatever you get in your sinuses. So I really do apologise if my voice sounds a little bit odd, and hope everybody else is well who's listening to the podcast. But just to establish, the main aim of this podcast episode is not me saying that I work multiple jobs, I work more hard than another person, but it's just giving you my personal experience of how I've managed my time with working a job alongside university. You might be somebody, it's just because my demographic on YouTube is primarily males between 18 to 34. Obviously I have other people and females watching my channel, but I'm guessing that a lot of you listening and watching are going to be managing busy lifestyles. So this particular episode is for those people who are having to work a full-time job and they're struggling maybe to fit fitness into their lifestyle, or they're wanting to do other things around their job, but they're actually struggling to build in more time in their day to do those things, which is limiting them. And hopefully the tips I'm going to give you today and what I do personally, you'll be able to apply to your own lifestyle. So again, this episode is for somebody working a full-time job or leading a busy lifestyle and would like to do more things with their time, but is struggling to find the time to do that. By the way, if you'd like a free fat loss program, then the first link in the show notes and the YouTube description is a link to that fat loss program. You'll be able to download the PDF for free straight away, and that's going to help you set up your own nutrition plan to get lean, lose fat, tone up and build muscle, and build on strength if you drop your calories very slowly. That's a really useful tool and I've had great feedback with it. It's in the YouTube description, first link, or the first link in the show notes. And by the way, if you'd like to support me in any way at all, then on YouTube I'd just appreciate it if you subscribed to my channel and watched a few of my videos and liked the videos that you check out. If you want to support me in any way at all, that is a really good way of doing that. By the way, if you want to check out some previous episodes, because sometimes those people leading busy lifestyles can suffer a little bit from anxiety and get a little bit stressed. And in my previous episode, I talk about how to manage anxiety and just enjoy your life, because life is a process that should be enjoyed and not should be endured. It should be enjoyed, not endured. So don't go and check out that previous episode. I'll put a link up on the screen to it, and there'll also be a link in the YouTube description and show notes description to it if you want to go and check that out. By the way, of course, I'm going to have my phrases that I say all the time, so I'm sorry if I say by the way a lot. But I'd like to get your guys' input in my videos. I've been thinking of actually maybe creating videos in the future on YouTube, say monthly, where I get you guys on the channel talking. Maybe you send me video clips and I compile it into one video where we all give opinions about a certain topic, and rather than just doing live streams, because live streams, I do get input from you guys there and then, but I'm not actually seeing your faces. So it'd be really cool to see your faces by getting your input into videos and actually putting clips of you guys talking into YouTube videos. And I'm also always willing to have guests on this podcast. I've definitely got a few guys lined up for probably after my dissertation, hopefully before my dissertation ends in April, May, and my time at university. But I'd also like to get guests, and it can be anybody who's passionate about a certain subject. Try and related to fitness if possible. But to be honest, I really do get motivated by those people who are just motivated about a certain subject they're into, if that makes sense. But if you'd like to be able to speak on the podcast, then just send me an email. It's aafitness01@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you. Now I've got 4 main points today. I'm going to have put the transcription of this in the show notes if you'd like to download it by the time that you're probably hearing this. If it's not there yet, it will be there very, very soon. But I'm going over 4 main points, and I'll also leave some useful resources in the YouTube description and show notes description that you guys will be able to check out, and it will help you be able to create more time into your day whilst also listening to this. I would recommend also doing something at the same time as listening to this podcast episode, like the hoovering, or potentially emptying the dishwasher, or maybe writing a Christmas list, whatever you're doing today, because you can do 2 things at the same time whilst listening to a podcast. But first tip is what I like to do sometimes at the start of the week, sometimes at the start of every day, but is write out a list of what I need to do and then prioritise, but also look at the difficulty of each task. So for example, this can actually be done over a long time scale, but it can also be done daily. Let's just say I'm thinking daily at the moment. So say a typical day for me, it does vary a lot, but would be a day consisting of training, my own training session, personal training sessions, Skype calls sometimes, but working on my university dissertation also, and a nutrition assignment, and also posting things on social media for my online business. So what I tend to do is write all these things out, look at what times I'm doing them, and also think about the amount of time it will take me to complete each task. And then what I like to do personally is start off with one easy task that I can complete very quickly, and because you complete that task so quickly, you feel really good about it, and that motivates you to work on the more difficult tasks, which are going to take much longer time-wise to complete. So usually what I like to do is, at the start of the day, my own training session. I'll go more into detail about why I do it at the start of the day for my next tip. Then I do personal training sessions. Then I post something on social media, which doesn't take me too long, around 20-30 minutes. And then I work more on my nutrition and university assignments because they require a lot more research, a lot more time. Definitely requires a lot of time because because I feel motivated by doing the other things before that. I feel in a good position psychologically wise, and my mentality is very positive going into working onto the university assignment, so I can produce the best work possible. Because if any of you are university students, you'll be able to relate about you just want to try and give as much time to it as possible, because it does require a lot of time, and we're obviously aiming to get the highest result possible. So I've got a university assignment in next Wednesday, and then I'm working on my dissertation, which is due in about a month. But that tip was inspired by watching a guy called Roberto Blake on YouTube, and I'll link to his YouTube channel in the show notes and YouTube description, and the video I specifically watched where he talked about how to manage your time in his situation. But this is my personal account of how I manage my time. Second tip, make relaxation time. It's very necessary in order to be productive, in my opinion, to build in time to relax. And relaxing, I don't mean just laying on the sofa and doing nothing, but doing something that you want to do in order to be productive in the time that you've built in to do work, if you're working on a nutrition assignment in my case, or if you're going to your job, or if you're working on your own online business. So what I do is at the start of the day, I do my training session, so I go out for a run and then do my weight training session. And even within that weight training session, being able to complete a certain weight for a certain amount of reps or something in a certain amount of sets, having that feeling of euphoria and feeling good because I've managed to complete that, it puts me into a good mindset, and I also feel quite relaxed after that because I've had that energy output with high intensity training and aerobic training. This also sounds slightly odd, but I build in time for naps. I say naps plural, but I usually only have one, typically a day, which lasts around 20-30 minutes. And I also build in time to read the Bible or listen to a Bible podcast or pray. I try and do a combination of prayer and reading the Bible or Bible podcast, but having that time away from my online business or university helps to clear your mind in a sense, and helps you to feel relaxed. And I really do find, especially with my faith, that helps to manage anxiety. I personally don't suffer from anxiety, but if you're thinking about a deadline that's coming up, helps you to put it in perspective and think, I'm just going to do my best. I'm going to produce the best work I can possible for this assignment with the time I have. Because I've seen some people who try and dedicate not dedicate too much time, but put loads and loads and loads of time and energy into working on, say, university assignment. I'm going to use university here a lot just because I'm in that situation. And then they've burnt themselves out and actually become quite ill. So just be careful with that, and make sure you build in time for naps throughout the day, because I find a 20-30 minute nap can be really beneficial to having a bit more energy and feeling much better throughout the day. And obviously you've got to support yourself nutritionally if you want to be productive as well. Third main point is when you're working on something like a university assignment or an online business, I find I've definitely done this in the past, but really thought about what I'm going to say, and then within, say, well, if I've left aside 30 minutes to work on a blog post or something, I've written only a couple of sentences because I've been thinking about it too much. So the technique I like to use in order to be productive in that time is write down all the points I want to talk about without thinking about my grammatical, about how accurate I'm being with my grammar, whether I'm using the apostrophes in the right place, about the ideas that I have down. I put everything down, then after the 30 minutes I go through it and see what is necessary and what isn't necessary. Then I can take bits of information out and put bits in which are necessary when I think over it. But the key thing is to try and not limit yourself, because obviously nobody's going to be looking at this, it's just going to be you. So don't almost judge yourself and think, oh, if I put that down that's going to be wrong. Just put everything down and then go through it after the 30 minutes. Fourth and final point is, if you are somebody who struggles to do any exercise at the moment because you're so busy going between jobs, you're having to drive a lot because you're a commuter, or perhaps you commute to London on the train if you're from the UK, and you leave the house at, say, 6 a.m. and you're coming back very late, then you might struggle to actually incorporate exercise into your day. So just try and look at a typical week or a typical day and think about where you can not use transport and then walk somewhere instead, in order to achieve at least your 150 minutes of low to moderate activity, cardiovascular activity per week, if you're not currently doing weight training. I do advise you do resistance training, but you've got to work at this in stages. So if you're doing no exercise at all at the moment, then just focus on building in cardiovascular exercise in order to gain the health benefits from it. So you might be using the train and you are literally a 5-minute walk away from your workplace when you get off the train. So what I'd recommend is get off, say, a stop earlier before your the stop you normally get off at, and then walk a little bit further. So it might be a 20 or 30 minute walk instead of a 5-minute walk, and then do that at the start of your day when you're walking to work, and at the end of the day when you're walking back from work, and then you would have done an additional 40 to 60 minutes of exercise without really having to think about it. And stick a podcast in your ears or listen to some music when you're doing the exercise. So that means you're able to listen to a podcast, you're able to do exercise, and you're able to travel to work all at the same time. And preferably the podcast, make it mine, the AA Nutrition Coach podcast. I hope these tips were helpful though, guys. If you'd like me to talk about anything in the future in regards to diet, nutrition, I'm thinking of having a bit more of a steer towards mental health and being productive, business making, things like, I'm no expert in creating a business, but I want to tell you about my process, and I can speak about topics and what I've experienced in regards to business, like maybe optimizing YouTube videos and things like that. Do let me know what you'd like me to talk about in the future. But thank you again for checking into this episode of the AA Nutrition Coach podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't, or subscribe to the podcast if you haven't hit that subscribe button. And I'll see you guys in next week's episode.
The AA Nutrition Coach podcast.